My name is Evangeline. For 15 years, I defined myself by that name in relation to another, Ross. Evangeline and Ross. A unit, a partnership, a fortress, or so I had believed. Our home, a sleek, modern structure of glass and steel overlooking the city, was a testament to that partnership. We built it, both the business and the house, from frantic, exhilarating scratch. Now, standing in its vast, minimalist living room, I felt its coldness seep into my bones for the first time. Ross was pacing, a panther in a bespoke suit. His movements were agitated, electric, with a nervous energy I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't the stress of a looming deal. It was the thrill of something new. I knew, of course. A wife knows. The late nights that stopped being about work, the new cologne, the phone held at a careful angle. The silence that had grown between us wasn't peaceful. It was a chasm, and he was already on the other side. "Evangeline, we need to talk," he began, his voice attempting firmness but cracking with that thrill. He didn't meet my eyes, instead looking out at the city lights as if they were his audience. "We do," I said, my voice calm. I had practiced this calm. I had nurtured it through months of quiet observation, through the death of 1,000 hopes. He turned, finally, and the words tumbled out, rehearsed and cruel in their clarity. "This isn't working. I'm not happy. I haven't been for a long time." He paused, searching my face for the devastation he expected. He saw only placid attention, which seemed to irritate him. He pushed on, harder. "There's someone else. Her name is Clara, and she's expecting my child." There it was, the classic trifecta, the blame, the other woman, the heir. A cliché so profound it was almost insulting. For 15 years, I had managed his life, smoothed his path, been the silent engine behind his very public success. And my reward was to be discarded for a plotline from a mediocre drama. He mistook my silence for shock. A flicker of pity, or perhaps just impatience, crossed his face. "I want you to leave. Tonight. You can take your personal things, the house, the cars, the business. It's all tied up. My lawyers will be in touch. We'll work out a settlement, of course." He said, "of course," as if granting a great benevolence. I let the words hang in the air, absorbing the sterile atmosphere of the room we had chosen together. Then I did something that unnerved him completely. I smiled, a small, quiet thing. "No, Ross," I said, my voice still that practiced, even tone. He blinked. "What do you mean, no? Evangeline, be reasonable. There's no future here. I'm giving you a chance to walk away with some dignity." "You are misunderstanding the situation," I said, walking slowly to the Italian marble console where a single abstract sculpture stood. I traced its cool edge. "You are not giving me anything, and you are certainly not in a position to ask me to leave." His confidence wavered, replaced by a flush of anger. "This is my house, my company. You were just the wife." "Ah," I said, turning to face him fully. "The wife. The one who worked 80-hour weeks alongside you in that first dreadful office. The one who convinced her father to invest the seed capital. The one who designed the branding, who handled the HR nightmares you were too brash to manage. The wife who signed a prenuptial agreement you were so insistently proud of." A smugness returned to his eyes. The prenup, his masterpiece. He'd presented it as a sign of our modern, pragmatic partnership, a shield for the empire we would build. He'd been so sure of his own star. "Exactly," he said, a note of triumph in his voice. "So you know how this ends." "I do," I agreed. I walked to my study, a room he never entered, and returned with a single, slim folder. I placed it on the glass coffee table between us. "But you see, Ross, you only ever read the summary. You were too busy conquering worlds to bother with the tedious pages of legalese. I, however, was not." I opened the folder. Behind me, I heard his sharp intake of breath. It wasn't the original document. It was a different set of papers, bearing the letterhead of a law firm he knew well. Sterling Voss, the most ruthless in the city. My lawyer, Julian, was their managing partner. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice dropping to a growl. "This is the enforceable amendment, signed and notarized by both of us on the same day as the original and filed separately," I explained, as if to a child. "A fail-safe, conceived by my lawyer and me. You see, the original prenup favored you in the event of a divorce, under specific conditions, fidelity being the primary one." The color drained from his face. He remembered now. The blur of signatures, the champagne afterward, his mind already on the future. He'd signed everything put in front of him. "The amendment states," I continued, reading calmly, "that in the event of marital dissolution due to infidelity on your part, as substantiated by evidence, all terms are inverted. The marital home, all jointly titled properties, and your controlling shares in the company revert solely to me. You forfeit them. A penalty for breach of our fundamental contract." "You bitch," he whispered, the words devoid of heat, hollow with dawning horror. "You planned this." "I planned for your nature, Ross," I corrected him softly. "I loved you, but I was never a fool. I observed. I saw your capacity for ruthless pursuit. I simply ensured I wouldn't be its casualty." I slid another document forward. Photographs, time-stamped, of him and Clara. A receipt for a diamond bracelet from an account I monitored. Enough. More than enough. "My lawyer Julian has all the originals. He has been waiting for this call for 6 months," I said, taking my phone from my pocket. I didn't need to call. It was all already in motion. The wheels had begun turning the moment Ross had first lied about a client dinner. The following hours were a blur of exquisite, silent chaos. Ross descended from anger to pleading to a catatonic disbelief. His phone began to ring. First his panicked CFO, then his own lawyer, whose furious tones I could hear from across the room. The empire was crumbling, and the foundation was not his. By midnight, it was over. The legal machinery, pre-oiled and waiting, had done its work with terrifying efficiency. Ross sat slumped in the very chair he'd once declared his throne, staring at a void of his own making. I picked up my suitcase, packed not tonight, but weeks ago, a quiet act of faith in my own foresight. I walked to the key cabinet. I took the fob for his beloved silver Aston Martin, and I took the master key to our glass house. I stood before him one last time. The man who had been my universe, now reduced to a stranger drowning in consequences. "The locks will be changed by morning," I said, my voice finally betraying a hint of the fatigue I felt. It was not sadness, but the weariness of a long war ended. "Your personal effects will be sent to a hotel. Clara can welcome you there. I understand the concierge at the Grand is excellent with unexpected long-term guests." He didn't look up. He had nothing left to say. I walked out into the cool night air. The silence was no longer a chasm. It was a vast, open plain. It was mine. I slid into the driver's seat of his car, my car, and the engine purred to life, a quiet, powerful hum. I didn't drive to a friend's or a hotel. I drove to the coast, to a small, secluded property Julian had quietly acquired in my name months ago. A cottage with the sound of the sea and no memories. As the first hint of dawn painted the sky in watercolor hues, I stood on the deck, a blanket around my shoulders. The only sound was the relentless, soothing crash of waves. There was no shouting, no pleading, no tense silence, just the wind and the water. Ross had given me a story of betrayal and loss, but I had written the ending. He sought a cliché of midlife passion and a new family. He found ruin. I sought only peace, and I found it here, in the glorious, deafening silence after the storm. My new life wouldn't be about grand victories or lavish revenge. It would be about this: the taste of salt on the air, the absence of a ringing phone demanding his attention, the freedom to be simply Evangeline, not a wife, not a partner, not an accessory to a man's ambition, just myself. The sun broke over the horizon, a clean, bright line dividing the dark sea from the brightening sky. I took a deep, shuddering breath, the first one that felt truly mine in 15 years. It was not a happy ending, not in the simple way. It was something better, a quiet, powerful beginning. And it was all mine.